Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the brand new Oknife Duron. As soon as I saw this knife, I absolutely love the overall aesthetics, and I haven't reviewed any Oknife or Olight products in quite some time. I just felt like the market had gotten way too saturated and mine was just another review. So I took a break on it, but whenever I saw this one, it really piqued my interest. So I reached out to them, asked them if I can review it, and they obliged. I was really interested to check out their trademarked material right here, the OAL Aluminum. It's supposed to be OAL Super Aluminum or something like that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think this would make a fantastic EDC knife. It's super lightweight. When it's closed, it's nice and slim and sleek in the pocket. It carries well. It's a nice full-size EDC knife at 8 inches overall. It has a 3.5-inch drop point blade with a black PVD coating, as you can see there. Nice top swedge to come down to thin out that tip to give you a nice bulky tip there. You have a small row of effective jimping there, grips the finger perfectly without being overly aggressive. Your thumb studs stay out of the cutting path, as you can see there. And the blade steel on this one is Nitro V stainless steel. Your blade stock thickness is coming in at 0.12 inches, and we have a nice full flat grind that comes down nice and thin to around 14 thousandths behind the edge. And something I love to see, this one has a perfectly even edge bevel. My particular knife was sharpened to 18 degrees per side, so as long as this one's sharp, it should be a slicing machine, and we're gonna find out. Boy, did this one come sharp out of box. Talk about that, just makes me so happy. This one definitely, I'm almost certain it has fantastic edge geometry because it is slicing so effortless. You got enough usable blade. I think it's like a 3.5-inch blade. And talk about slicey. And you know, a lot of that has to do with how sharp the edge is. And let's see, I'm kind of curious to see how their Nitro V holds up. And I will say I'm choked up in the flat portion of the scales up there by the edge, so I can control it a lot better. And it's making sharp work of the feather sticks. I'm no bushcrafter. It's nice and comfortable. You got contouring. The anodizing or whatever, the hard anodizing coating that they do, and the texture is the perfect amount of grip. I felt locked in, and it's a thinner handle, but still feels comfortable. And being that you have the higher tip, you have more belly, so doing these type of cuts on a flat cutting surface are going to be the easiest. You know, if it was a little bit lower, it would still be easy, but that little bit extra belly makes the slicing motion cuts easier, at least. This knife came with a lot of bite, and of the 4 knives I tested, this one and one other knife, both of them just did fantastic. And you know, a lot of times whenever I get done with the sisal rope, I shut it down for the night because my hands are always swolled up and blistered up. But no, not this one. This one performed outstanding at this point. I mean, blasting through it. And that is always a pretty sight, at least, you know, when I'm doing this testing. And I guess I'm going to have to start reviewing the Oknife knives again because I forgot how much I liked them. I haven't really got any that I didn't like, even though it's been a while. I wouldn't mind checking out the first one they did with this OAL, the Zen or whatever. I just wanted to show you can use that tip, but you have to come up a pretty high amount, so using that belly for drag cuts is going to be perfectly fine. I did notice some drag on the tubing, and that's common with the PVD coating, but not bad at all. And this one completed all my testing faster than all the other knives I tested that day, so outstanding job, Oknife. All right, let's take a look at the deployment and action of this one. So you have dual thumb studs. The thumb stud action, this thing has such a positive detent. Just watch. I mean, rockets out. As soon as you break that detent, it's coming out. Pretty drop shut knife. You can slow roll it if you like. And for reverse flick, I can either do it underneath or I can put my finger like that. I tend to do that quite often, no matter which way you want to go with it. Left side. See, I can't ever reverse flick left-handed. Nice and snappy action. It is riding on caged ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. You have some good texture on your thumb studs that offer the right amount of traction so you don't slide off of them. And as you can see, you have good access because of this cutout right here to get your thumb underneath them. One thing I will tell you is whenever I'm flipping it, I'm usually, these two fingers are on the pocket clip, and then I usually got my finger back here. But I have kind of not locked myself out, but when I'm putting this finger right there, I have noticed that it got very strong for me. So just be cautious of that, especially, you know, as a righty flipping it. You don't want to be putting so much pressure on that lock bar that it's impossible to get the knife open. I mean, that's a very common thing with frame locks these days. I mean, that's just, you got to put your finger somewhere, and unless they do something to prevent it, then, you know. But I got used to it rather quickly. Now, because of these nice contoured OAL aluminum or super aluminum scales, plus you have this softening on all the edges. Hopefully that's coming across right there. They contoured and rounded the actual termination edge there all the way around. So this one was extremely comfortable in hand. And then these OAL trademarked super aluminum scales are supposed to be super lightweight, tough, and durable. I can say immediately that they are extremely lightweight. I forgot how many, I think 30% lighter than titanium. And then I heard somebody else say that it's the same aluminum that they use for their flashlights, and that makes sense. And I'm sure it's probably the same hard anodizing that they do. On the side it says it's a multi-step anodizing, and I can say for certain that it is very scratch resistant because I took this one apart just to see what was going on in the inside. And if you do decide to take it apart, just know that you're going to have to probably pry this back. I think you have to take the pocket clip off too. Maybe you don't, but I did, and it seemed to help. But once you take these screws off, you're going to have to probably pry this out, because besides these two long screws that are screwed into here, you have this hidden lanyard pin that's kind of press fit on the one side or stuck on one side. And there's also a locator pin right here. So it's such a tight fit that I took one of my titanium pry bars and wedged it in here. And I mean, torquing it, and I slipped. And all you have, I don't know if you can see that, those are dents in the actual aluminum. Might have a little bit of the coating, but when I say I gouged this thing on accident and I was like, oh, that left a mark. Nope. But I just wanted to give a testament to this hard anodizing, how tough and scratch resistant it is, or at least mine is. And then it also has a different feeling than most of your hard anodized coatings. It's not chalky, but just gives you that perfect amount of tactility, so it's not slick. And then this fine milling right here, outstanding. I could have done without the made of OAL, but whatever. And then they kind of did like a clamshell construction, how they did this right here, so you don't have any standoffs. They've made a backspacer out of each of the scales, and then those come together. And this one should have tons of side-to-side rigidity because of your locator points. You got these two screws. You got this pin right here. You have a lot of stabilization back here. And then you have your pivot up here in the front. So I don't really know how I could show, without ruining the knife, I don't really know how I could show the toughness over anything else on this aluminum. But it has to be fairly tough, and it has to have better spring memory if they were able to do full-on frame lock here. It does have a hardened steel insert in there that acts as an over travel also. The only other company that I can recall seeing do this is Line Steel. They actually did the aluminum integral frame lock, I think it was. During all the cutting, it was very comfortable. I'm so glad they put this flat spot right there, because whenever I was doing the cardboard cutting, I choked up right there. I found that to be the most comfortable, and I was able to exert the most force, and I had the most control in this grip. You could also come up here in the saber grip. It's nice and comfortable, just in case you need to get a little bit more downward pressure into whatever you're cutting. And then being that you have a very neutral handle, this reverse grip is comfortable. And then you have this nice little rounded flat spot up there. If you had to do the reverse gas station knife fight grip, you could definitely do that. They did such a phenomenal job of softening everything, contouring, and then the textures. This one was comfortable, no hot spots. The clip stayed out of the way of my palm. And even though it is a little thinner, I still did all the cutting without any fatiguing. You know, maybe over some prolonged periods of cutting, you might start to fatigue a little bit because of the thinness. Now, it's not overly thin, but, you know, it's not 0.6 or greater. That's where I usually find, you know, that extra longevity without getting tired. So we have a tip-up deep carry pocket clip that they inset into the aluminum. They countersunk those screws. Fantastic job. And even though they left this pocket clip on that milling, it's gone with the pocket clip. So I think that actually helps it have a little bit more grip in the pocket. And I don't think that'll become a pocket shredder. Being that they put the retention spot more so on the aluminum instead of this lock relief right here, I had no issues with this going in and out of the pocket, getting bunched up or anything. And talk about it carries very, very well. Then if you flip it over, you can also swap it over to your left side where they also have the cutout. I do wish they had a filler tab here, but you know, at least they have it tapped for lefties. And not only is the material itself lightweight, if you look inside here, they have tons of pocketing in there to bring down the weight on both sides too. This is a full-size knife, an 8-inch knife, and this one comes in at 3.22 ounces. So that's under the ounce and inch some people actually care about. This is a 3.5-inch blade. And let's see where that balance point is. I'm hoping, yep, right there where it should be in that choil area. Hopefully you can see that. Your lockup is sitting at around, I'd say 60% maybe. Access to this lock bar. Look how far this cutout comes down. And you have this nice chamfer right here. No sharp areas because of that anodizing and they knocked off that edge. It is so easy for me to get my thumb in there. Now because it's aluminum, the spring tension on this lock bar isn't super strong or anything, but it is consistently going over. So that's definitely a good thing. You don't want this thing to get weak on you or anything. Lockup is super, super solid. I mean, no movement in any direction whatsoever. And I cannot flex any at all either. Now for some quick size comparisons, it's in the middle of the Ontario Wrap 1 and 2. And one that it reminds me a whole lot of, it's identical in length to the Kaiser Militaw, and it's a little bigger than the Oknife Beagle. And it's just a hair shorter than the Spyderco PM2, and it's just a hair longer than the Benchmade Bugout. And lastly, it's just about identical to the Civivi Button Lock Elementum, and it's just a hair longer than the Rake P801. Now, being that absolutely no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks and complaints? Possibly they could have given us a little bit more of a sharpening choil, but if I look right here, you're going to be able to sharpen to right there before you have to worry about it. So it's really just being very nitpicky there. Also, if you plan on taking this one apart, be sure you're using fresh drivers, maybe even a little bit of heat, because mine, I don't think it was red Loctite, but it was caked in there and it was hard all the way to the very end. So like I said, just something to be aware of. Of course, I would have loved to see this lock relief on the inside so that milling pattern wouldn't have got broken up, but I don't know if that's something you could do with this material or not. They could have put a flat spot underneath this pocket clip. However, I think it was a smart idea not to, especially being that the lines are going in the same direction. It gave it that extra little grab that I think this one needs. And lastly, something I would have loved to see on this one is a filler tab for the opposite side, just because I think it just looks like I lost it pretty much. I think it would have been a nicer touch there. However, that is not hurting the functionality on this one at all. So what are my final thoughts on the new Oknife Duron? I think it's a very attractive looking knife, super lightweight, super slicey blade, fairly versatile blade, nice smooth action, and very, very snappy action. It has nice and comfortable ergos. That's something that's very important to me. And to disengage that lock is oh so nice. Not to mention, this pocket clip on this material functions flawlessly. This is one of the first knives in a while that I can carry in my lightweight shorts because they're kind of like those fishing type shorts. And a lot of times the clip will either shred up my material or it'll kind of grab the material. This one goes in and out of that very easy, and my jeans, so fantastic job. And plus, like I said, this multi-step hard anodizing they do offers the perfect amount of tactility and excellent scratch resistance. So on their site, these come in at $99.99. However, they even direct you to get this off of Amazon, which is on sale at the moment for 85 bucks. Do I think it's worth 85 bucks? Absolutely. Hands down, I think it was worth the $99.99. Personally, you know, it's an 8-inch knife, slicey. It checks all the boxes for me. The only thing I would have really liked to see is this tip come down a little bit lower, but that's not a deal breaker whatsoever for me. You know, as long as it performs well, it's comfortable, it's got good action, I like the way it looks, which I do, then yeah, it's a winner. So I would love to hear your thoughts on the new Oknife Duron, and what are your thoughts on this OAL Super Aluminum? So that's going to wrap up today's video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. I hope every single one of y'all is having a fantastic day today. And remember, keep these blades sharp, smile more.